Okay guys, so now for our last video, it says fill in the chart below matching the function rule, math fact, and scenario that best matches the given graphs. Okay, so I'm just going to start with graph A. Okay, so I'm going to look at graph A. So I'm going to look at this graph right here. Okay, the first thing I need to do is I have to match the function rule with that graph. So it has to be one of these function rules. Okay, so the first one says f of x equals x plus 6. So I know that it's not going to be this one because this graph is just staying constant. It's not changing at all. So if I look at all these function rules and look which one is not changing and staying constant, it is this function rule right here. The graph is staying continuously at 6. Okay, so my function rule for graph A would be f of x equals 6. And then I'm going to cross that one out. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at graph B and try and match the function rule. The biggest thing about this graph right here is I see that it is starting at a y-intercept of 6. Okay, and I also notice that the graph is increasing, meaning it's going up. So if I find which of these function rules down here start at a y-intercept of 6, it's this one and this one. And which one is increasing? It is this one because it has a positive slope. This one right here does not. It has a negative slope. So therefore, the correct answer would be this function rule to match with B. Okay, so the correct function rule for B would be f of x equals x plus 6. Okay, so now let's look at C. Okay, so C is this graph right here. And I notice that this one is also starting at a y-intercept of 6, but it has a negative slope. So I know the function rule is going to be this one. So negative x plus 6. And my last graph is D. And the biggest thing about this one is I see that the y-intercept, the graph is starting at the origin. So I know I'm not going to have a y-intercept. I'm going to have a y-intercept of 0 actually. So the only one that has a y-intercept of 0 is this function rule right here. Because remember I could put a 6x plus 0. So f of x equals 6x would be this function rule to match with D. Okay, so now I need to match the correct math fact with my function rule and graph. Okay, so let's look at the first math fact. Okay, so it says always constant down here. So which of these graphs, when I look at it, is always constant? Well, that's clearly this graph right here. So always constant is A. So write the number. The number is number 1. Okay, so that one's done. Okay, now I need to look at the second math fact. Always decreasing. Okay, so always decreasing. Let me look at my graphs, see which one's always decreasing. The one that's always decreasing is graph C. So I'm going to put always decreasing at graph C. So graph C would be number 2, always decreasing. Okay, cross that one out. My next math fact is always increasing from the origin. So I look at my graph, and the only one that's always increasing from the origin is D. From the origin, it goes up, always increasing. So D is going to match up with the always increasing. So always increasing is number 3. It matches with D. Okay, so that one's done. So I know that B is going to match up with my last math fact, but I will explain why. So the last math fact is always increasing and does not go through the origin. So the only one that's always increasing and does not go through the origin is B, because if you look, the y-intercept is 4. It does not go through the origin because the origin is down here. Okay, so B is going to match with that math fact. So number 4 matches with Okay, so there's all my math facts. Okay, so now I need to look at what it could show, draw the shape. Okay, so the first one says a buffet charges you $6 for an all-you-can-eat buffet. X represents the amount of food eaten and Y represents the amount of money spent. So it just costs me $6 and I could eat as much as I want. So it's always going to be $6. So if I look at this graph or the function rule, the correct function rule, it's always $6. So let's find where that was the function rule, always $6. That is right here. So that is going to match with my scenario of the square box. Okay. I'm going to erase some of the stuff so there's not so much going on here. Okay, so the next one is Gianna starts with $6 in her piggy bank and saves $1 every week. Okay, so she starts with $6, so her y-intercept should be $6, and she saves $1 every week, which meaning the slope is +1. Her money is going up, so she starts with $6 and it's going up +1 here every week. So this is the correct function rule, and this is the correct graph. So I'm going to look for that graph and that function rule and match it up with the star right here. Okay, so which one was x plus 6? That was number 2, so my star is going to be number 2. Okay, so the next scenario, you saved $6 for the vending machines this week. You spent $1 every day during lunch. So I had $6, but I kept spending money, which means my money should go down and my slope should be negative, but I had $6. So this is the correct function rule, and this is the corresponding graph. Okay, so triangle should go with my graph C. It is just a coincidence that these are going in order every time. You have to make sure that this triangle right here actually did match up with graph C. It's not always going to go in order. Sometimes it might match up with D. It just depends on the scenario. Okay, and then the last one I know is going to be circle, but why? It says you get paid $6 for every chore you complete. Okay, so let's think of X as the amount of chores I complete, and I get paid $6 for every one of those. So this is the correct function rule, and this is the correct graph. Okay, so my circle is going to go with the last one. Okay, so again, if you want to take a look and make sure yours matches up with mine down here, these are the correct answers. Okay, thanks for watching all the videos, and good luck on your CUAs.